Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to be talking about how many reps should you be doing per set to hit your specific goals. Now, this video is going to start off by just talking about what the specific goals of weight training are, and then later in the video we'll talk about the actual rep ranges you should be following so that you can incorporate it into your training. So just make sure to stick around till the end and let's jump right into it. The first thing you need to understand when choosing how many reps you'll be doing per set is the principle of specificity. Now, you've probably heard me talk about this in previous videos, but the specificity principle, or SAID principle, which stands for Specific Adaptations to Imposed Demands, is the idea that the way you train will determine the results that you get from your training. Or to put it as simply as possible, if you want to get really good at something, you need to practice that specific thing. And these changes to specific training can actually be seen at a physiological level, with motor units being capable of changing their muscle fiber type along that slow twitch, fast twitch spectrum based on the activity that the muscle fiber is used to doing. So with that knowledge in mind, let's take a look at what the main goals of strength training are, those being hypertrophy, strength, and muscular endurance. Hypertrophy, or an increase in the size of the muscle, is one of the most desired results of weight training. There are two main types of hypertrophy called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy being an increase in the sarcoplasm of a muscle, which is essentially just the cytoplasm of a muscle cell. Myofibrillar hypertrophy is an increase in the number of the contractile proteins actin and myosin. Now, of all of the main weight training goals, hypertrophy is the only one that's not a specific skill, with increases in muscle size being shown consistently in the research regardless of what rep range you're training at. Hypertrophy tends to be more correlated with the overall volume and intensity of the workout, meaning that the rep range you're training at is less relevant, provided you're putting in enough effort and doing enough hard sets. Strength is usually defined as the maximum amount of weight that you can lift for one rep, and unlike hypertrophy, strength is a specific skill. This can be seen in multiple studies examining the effects of training at different loads on hypertrophy and strength, with hypertrophy not being significantly different between groups regardless of the amount of weight being lifted, whereas strength showed significant improvements in the heavyweight, low rep ranges compared to the lighter loads that used higher rep ranges. This evidence suggests that while you may be able to get bigger by training at most rep ranges, if you want to get stronger, you should be training at heavier weights with less reps per set. And the last of the three goals, muscular endurance, means to be able to lift a sub-maximal weight for a lot of reps. Training for muscular endurance is another specific skill that uses higher rep ranges and really just means that you want your muscles to be able to work hard for a longer period of time without getting as tired. A lot of people call this getting toned, which really has no practical meaning, since looking more toned comes with increasing muscle mass and decreasing body fat, not from the amount of reps you're doing per set. So now let's make this information a little bit more applicable to our own specific goals and training. For hypertrophy, any set or rep range can apply. This means that you can tailor your training around another goal and still get bigger as a result as an added bonus. For strength, heavyweight sets at lower rep ranges, typically in that 1 to 5 rep range, will best increase strength. Since strength is a specific skill, you need to practice lifting heavy if you want to improve the heaviest weight that you can lift. And for endurance, sets of 13 or more will best improve the number of sub-maximal reps that you can do. And before you ask, but what about that 6 to 12 rep range that people work at a lot? You should still train in that rep range, and honestly you should train in it quite a bit. For beginners specifically, your training needs to be less specific, meaning that you can train at almost any rep range to achieve strength, size, and endurance. So that middle rep range of 6 to 12 reps per set is a great place to start. For more advanced lifters, sets of 6 to 12 should still make up the bulk of your workout, but more specific work needs to be incorporated in as well in order to work towards your goals. And while you could in theory train in sets of 5 or less for every set of every lift to get stronger even faster, The heavy weight can take a toll on your body, significantly increasing your likelihood of injury, which could just end up setting you back even further, with studies showing increased risk of injury as well as increased strength when consistently training at 4 rep max or higher loads compared to lighter 8 and 12 rep max loads. So when designing your workout program, set up the bulk of your sets in that 6 to 12 rep range, usually somewhere around 60 to 70% of your sets, and easing towards the side of that rep range that best fits your goals. That being 6 to 8 reps for someone more focused on strength, and 10 to 12 reps per set for someone who's more focused on endurance. The other 30 to 40% of the workout can focus on more specific goal-oriented work and is where you'd add in the heavy sets to train strength or some lighter work to work on endurance. I also personally prefer to put my heavy sets in the compound movements that use multiple muscle groups since the capacity for loading is typically really high, and like to do my higher rep ranges on the isolation movements that target one specific muscle. Just for example, let's take a look at a leg day that someone might do if they're trying to focus on strength and size. Notice the distribution of rep ranges between the heavy 1 to 5 range and that middle 6 to 12 rep range. You can see the distribution of heavy compound movements designed to specifically target strength, as well as the higher rep isolation exercises intend to help induce hypertrophy, with about 40% of the sets falling in that 1 to 5 rep range, and another 45% being on the low end of that middle rep range. A few other important factors that I want to touch on other than rep range are that you also need to make sure to use appropriate training volume of about 10 to 20 hard sets per muscle per week. Use proper form on all of your lifts, and mostly utilize a full range of motion in your movements. So to wrap up the key points of this video to make it easiest to apply it to your training, hypertrophy or size gains will happen at any rep range provided you're training hard enough. Strength and endurance are both specific skills, so to focus on strength you want to utilize sets of 1 to 5 reps, and to target more endurance you want to utilize rep ranges greater than 12 reps per set. The bulk of your sets should still come into that 6 to 12 rep range as a way to help prevent injury or overtraining, with somewhere around 30 to 40% coming in that specific goal zone. Strength rep ranges are best applied to compound movements that allow for extremely heavy loads on multiple different muscles. And lastly, make sure to utilize full range of motion, use an appropriate set volume of 10 to 20 hard sets per muscle per week, and use proper form so that the training is actually working the muscles that you think it is. But thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments how you plan to apply this information to your own training, or just if you have any questions about anything, go ahead, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.